should follow in our lives. It is nothing but the Panchmahayajna, Yamas and the Niyamas. We had a couple of discussions in previous sessions about the Panchmahayajnas, that is your Brahma Yajna, Deva Yajna, Pitra Yajna, Balideshwa Deva Yajna and the Aditi Yajna. Moving forward, today's topic of discussion would be primarily focused on Yamas and a little bit on the Niyamas. The first thing is Yamas. Yama is like something that we should not be doing. The do not list. It's a list of self-restraints that we must apply on ourselves. So the Yoga Darshan gives 5 key aspects about the Yamas. That is Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Brahmacharya and Aparigraha. We will try and look into each one of it in a bit of detail. The first one is Ahimsa. So according to Yoga Darshan, it gives a very clear-cut definition of Ahimsa. It says, Sarvatha, Sarvada, Sarvabhutanam, Anavidroha. Now what does this sutra exactly mean? It says, Anavidroha, that is, to not cause harm to anyone, to not cause sorrow to anyone. In what ways? To whom? At what time? So the answer comes in the 3 different parts of the same sutra. It says, Sarva Bhutana, not to cause harm towards all living beings, be it humans, animals, anyone. We shouldn't be causing harm to them. The next question which arises is, when should we follow this? It says, Sarvada, that is, on all occasions, be it today morning, evening or night, at any point of time, be it during a good times, be it during a bad times, we should follow Ahimsa. And how should we follow Ahimsa? It says Sarvatha, in all possible ways, be it physically, mentally or verbally. This reminds me of a very beautiful shloka from the Manusmriti. It says, Manasyanyat Vachasyanyat Karmananyat Duratmanam Manasyekam Vachasyekam Karmanyekam Mahatmanam. In these 2 lines, you would have seen a repetition of 3 words, that is Man, Vachan and Kar. It says that an evil person will have certain different thought in his mind, will speak something else and will act different, and that is a trait of an evil person. But the person who is noble, who does good deeds, he will have the same thing in his mind, will have the same thing in his words, he will speak the same and will act in a similar manner. So, this is about Ahimsa. The next yam that comes is to follow Satya, that is, to speak the truth. We should always speak the truth. This we have been taught since our childhood. But how should we say? It's based on the pramans. Pramans are nothing but your evidences. That is the Shabda Praman, Pratyaksha Praman and Anuman Praman. That is, Shabda is what you read, Pratyaksha is what you see, and Anuman is basically what you estimate. So your truth should be in such a way that you should speak whatever you have seen, whatever you have heard, and whatever you have estimated based on the pramans. And one more important thing about the speech is that it should be in such a manner that it should not have an intention of cheating anyone. It should not create doubt. Whenever you speak, you should be crystal clear. Suppose you delegate some work to someone. You should have delegated in such a manner that it should reach the receiver correctly and the receiver does the thing whatever you wanted to do. So the things will happen in a proper manner. And the last thing about the Satya is that it should be meaningful and it should communicate effectively. Nowadays we see multiple of advertisements saying if you take this, this will happen. But when you consume that, it doesn't happen. So this is a form of asatya, untrue, that is giving a very false notion. It's spreading doubt, spreading rumors. So your truth should be such that it should not cheat anyone, it should not create doubt, and it should be meaningful. Then this reminds me of a very beautiful shloka from the Manusmriti again. It says, Satyam bruyat priyam bruyat na bruyat satyam apriyam priyam chananratam bruyat esha dharma sanatana. Satya is a very key important part of dharma. Dharma is what you do for your own good, for your own well-being, for others as well, and that should be practiced in your everyday lives. It says about Satya speak the truth. Satyam bruyat. Speak the truth, but how? Speak it sweetly. Priyam bruyat. And you should not speak the bitter truth. And you should not say a sweet lie. So not say a sweet lie in the sense, you shouldn't be flattering, and you should see you should say the truth in the rightful manner, in sweet manner, and you should not speak the bitter truth. For example, you see a blind man walking, you don't go and call that person, oh you blind man. See, you are telling the truth, that I accept, but you are telling in a bitter manner. That's not the right way. And another example is a relationship between a boss and an employee. An employee should not speak the truth in a flattering manner. That's not the right way. You should speak as much as required and in the rightful manner. The next comes the third part of yam, that is asteya. Asteya means to not steal. Stealing, we usually think from a very materialistic manner, like we just steal someone's belongings, but it has a very deeper meaning to it. It says taking someone's possession without permission is also asteya. Asteya, that is stealing. Suppose, and even taking someone's possessions illegally and not using your possessions appropriately. For example, taking a bribe. When a policeman suppose takes a bribe, it is a form of stealing. But on the other hand, when the court of law auctions someone's property who is a convict, at that point of time that is not stealing, because that is the rightful thing that the court of law should have done. But bribery is definitely stealing. Some common examples of asteya that we encounter in our everyday lives is, for students, if we say they copy in an exam, they do plagiarism. So here, copying here, you're not materialistically, physically taking something, but in a deeper sense, you're borrowing, you're actually stealing someone's intellectual property. So that also comes under stealing. A lawyer fighting a case for a criminal is also asteya. He is also stealing because he is stealing the justice which should have been delivered to the rightful person. Sometimes we even waste food. Taking food more than what we require is also stealing, because if you wouldn't have consumed that food, it would have been used for someone else. Someone else's stomach would have been filled. So consuming the right quantity of food, not wasting, comes under non-stealing. But on the other hand, when you waste food, it comes under stealing. Next, yama is your brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is nothing but acquisition of true knowledge. When we acquire true knowledge, we move towards the path of dharma. We move towards tread on the path to lead to the supreme course. And one important aspect of brahmacharya is to have a control of our senses. According to the Vedas, there are 4 ashrams that each one of us undergo, at 25 years of interval. The first 25 years, they say, is the brahmacharya ashram. Second 25 is the grihastha ashram. Third 25 is the vanaprastha ashram. And the fourth 25 years of your life is the sannyasa ashram. So the first 25 years of your life which you engage in, which is essentially the student phase of our life, is the brahmacharya, wherein we live in the brahmacharya ashram. At that point of time, our duty is to follow the dharma by reading the right books, by controlling our senses. When I say controlling our senses, we have a shloka which comes in the Manusmriti. It says, Na jatu kamah kamanam upabhogena shyamani havisha krishnamarteva bhuya evavi bharti. That is, desires will keep improving, will keep increasing if we start fulfilling them. On the other hand, if we stop them and we subside them, it will die. It is similar like when we do the Agnihotra, we offer samagri, we offer the ghee. The fire keeps intensifying. Similarly, when we keep fulfilling our desires only keep increasing and it will never be subdued. So it's very important to have a control over our senses. And the next part, and the last part of the yamas is aparigraha. That is to reduce the consumption. We shouldn't be consuming anything more than what is required. Sometimes, suppose let's take example of 2 people. One person has 100 rupees and the other person does not have any money. Now the person who has 100 rupees, if he is taking the most, like he is having the intention of not spending those 100 rupees on some wasteful activities, in that true sense he is following aparigraha by reducing consumption. But when you take the example of a person B who does not have money, and then you say that he is performing aparigraha, that's not right, because he doesn't have anything to actually go and consume. When you have something and then you restrain yourself from buying unwanted things, at that point of time is called aparigraha, not when you don't have resources. And when you keep fulfilling your desires, you have multiple other problems that keep coming up. The first thing is that you need to acquire that whatever you want. And then once you acquire something, you want to protect it. You want to protect it from deterioration. You don't want the thing to be degraded. And after once you start buying something or you start fulfilling your desires, a habit formation starts happening. That is nothing but a samskar gets imprinted on you. And when you don't get it, the next time when you go for buying and you don't get it, you start having violence. You become very aggressive. Do or die, you want that thing. So these are multiple aspects which develop when you start fulfilling your unwanted desires. So how do we consume? How could we reduce the consumption? So in this planet of 7 billion people, there is enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's need. So this we have to keep in our minds. Now moving to the second key aspect of the Vedic Dharma, that is the niyamas. Niyamas are nothing but the to-do list that we must all follow in our lives. So the 5 niyamas are Santosh, Sauch, Tap, Swadhyay and Ishwar Pranidhan. So Sauch is nothing but a cleanliness, Santosh is satisfaction, Tap is penance, Swadhyay is self-study, and Ishwar Pranidhan is nothing but a communion with the Almighty. So first let's look at Sauch. Sauch we usually consider as cleanliness in colloquial terms, and we go and integrate it to external cleanliness. That is personal hygiene. I would say that is equally very important, but some people do overdo that also. But that may indeed be harmful. Eating nutritious food, avoiding toxic junk foods will keep your mind healthy, body healthy, and soul healthy. One important thing about cleanliness, which we always forget or we just sideline, is the internal purification. We should at constant intervals purify not only our body but our mind and thoughts as well. Now you would ask me, how would I go about doing this? It's very simple. You should practice meditation, and each day in the evening you should self-introspect. Like how you see a mirror, you see your external appearance. When you sit down in meditation and introspect your day-to-day activities, look at your flaws, look at your mistakes again and again, you start purifying your actions, your mind and your thoughts. Next comes is Santosh. Santosh is nothing but satisfaction. We should all be satisfied with whatever we have, but that doesn't mean that if we don't get anything, we just stop it. Like suppose we are writing an exam, we just pray and pray to God, okay, I want this much mark without any hard work, and when you get your scorecard, it will be obviously very good. But when you would have done your hard work and then written your exam with prayers, you would have reached a better target. But in that case also, even after hard work, you wouldn't reach your target score. You shouldn't be dissatisfied. Rather, you should think over the mistakes that you have made, even increase your hard work to another 10 times, 20 times, and then you will see that your results are improving. So, having satisfaction in life is extremely important. Where does dissatisfaction, the source of dukkha, that is nothing but unhappiness, arise? It is when you start comparing yourself with others. When you start comparing yourself with others, you find that you find yourself inferior. You keep demotivating yourself. That shouldn't happen. Comparison is one of the reasons for this. Once in king's court, a sage was called, and the king was over ambitious, and he was always discontented with whatever he had. He wanted to occupy more kingdoms. At that point of time, a sage told the king, Sarvi bhavati daridro, यस्य तृष्णा विशालः मनसि च परिष्पुष्टे को अर्थवानः को दरिद्रः. That means he alone is poor who has a number of desires. I am contented. Now you decide who is rich and who is poor. This is a very apt statement even in today's scenario. So when we are contented, we are no less, we are rich in our own ways. The next important niyam, the third niyam that comes is tapaha. Tapaha is penance. Usually tapaha we correlate with some sannyasi, some yogi sitting over the mountain top and going over like 18, 20, 24 hours of the meditation. That is one extreme form. But then you should remember that each one of us sitting here also performing tapa. Tap is nothing but a state of equilibrium to maintain a sense of equanimity. So this mantra from the Bhagavad Gita, slogan from the Bhagavad Gita says, Sukha dukha same kritva, labha labho yajjaya jayo, tato yudhyasya yujyasya, naina pava mapyasya. That means, be it sukh or the happiness or sorrow, be it hunger or thirst, be it cold or heat, be it loss or gain, be it fame or insult, we should all be in a state of equilibrium. Like how we perceive when someone praises us, like how we are in a state of mind. Same way we should be in the state of mind when someone insults us. Rather we should start learning like what was the fault in ourselves and try to improve. We should make a sense of equilibrium. We should start focusing on the positives rather than the negatives. The next two important niyams is the Swadhyay and Ishwar Pranidhana. Swadhyay is nothing but self-study. Like now, what do you self-study on? You should read the right books which lead you towards the true knowledge. Just reading is not enough. You should introspect what's written. You should start questioning them. And after you question, you come to a conclusion as to what it says. And then you start implementing in your everyday lives. This Swadhyay, Niyam Swadhyay, I am reminded of a very short story of Swami Dayananda Saraswati. When he left his home, wandered around the whole of India for the search of true knowledge. At that point of time, he read multiple books which had true knowledge, false knowledge, multiple things. But when he reached the ashram of Swami Birjanand, at that point of time, Birjanand Saraswati told him that you go and throw your books into the river Yamuna, because he knew that that was not true knowledge. And he asked Swami Dayananda Saraswati to go and read directly from the Vedas, because Vedas give the true knowledge. They are the source of true knowledge. At that point of time, Swami Dayananda Saraswati accepted what his Guru did, what his Guru said, and he renounced all those false books which he had. He erased all those learnings which he had, and then he started reading the Vedas. Like how did he do? He did it by self-study. He started introspecting, questioning, and when he found the truth, he led to the path of finding the true Ishwar. The last one is to have Ishwar Pranidhana, that is to have a communion with the Almighty. First and foremost thing, we should all have complete faith on Almighty. We should always feel His presence. He is present in everyone, and He is definitely there to look at what we do. Whenever injustice occurs, He is there to compensate for it. And we should focus on actions without any expectation. We should start indulging ourselves in Nishkam Karma, that is the karma without expectation, rather than Sakam Karma. Now, after going through all the 10 key aspects of Yam and Niyam, now the question will arise, how do we follow the Yam and Niyam? When you have understood what Yam and Niyam are, what are the 10 key aspects, whenever some harm is done to you, whenever harm is done to someone else, whenever you do something which is not good, first thing is you will stop doing that. And next thing is that you will start raising counter questions. You will start questioning your deeds, whether you are doing right or wrong. In this way, you will be following Yam and Niyam. I hope all of you would have understood what the Yams and Niyams are, and all these subtle things, these are simple things, but it depends on us on how we start implementing in our day-to-day activities. With this, I would like to end my talk. Thank you.